Apologies for my tardiness. I had a meeting that overran, and then I literally had to go and run an errand. So 5 minutes late or 6 minutes late. But hopefully, we'll be able to get into this because I did this once yesterday and I wasn't necessarily happy with the picture quality. It's a little bit better today. I've got Wi Fi issues. Actually, this is way better than it was yesterday. So, let me just break down what I want to do. I want to basically walk you through my budgeting method, which has helped me save £51,204. I was looking at this day before yesterday over the past 2 years. Now, this budgeting method works for me. It is actually included in my book. It's the B part of my basic formula. So I know that it works. And I think just to start off with, just to be 100% transparent, I am not in any way, shape, or form saying that you will be able to save 50 grand by implementing this. But the system, the ideology behind it will definitely help you have better control over your finances so you can start to work towards whatever goals that you might actually have, whether that is paying down debt or saving for an emergency fund or having a pot of money set aside. This has really been life changing for me, and it's taken me a time to master it to the point where it is right now, where I have it locked down and it's very, very efficient for me. Now obviously, it goes without saying, in order for you to save good amounts of money, obviously you need to be earning a good amount of money as well. So things like income levels become a very, very important part. And the point here is that, if you have income, hopefully what you're trying to do is you're trying to have expense reductions so you have more in disposable income to be able to put towards savings, investments, whatever it is that you have. So there is a huge emphasis on your income levels. I just happen to be doing okay at the moment, and it wasn't always like this. And I was a little reticent about putting the whole 50K thing on the thumbnail to this because I don't want people to feel as though I'm being braggadocious in any way or that it's clickbaity in any way. This system has actually helped me save 51 grand in 2 years, but it has been over 2 years, and my income level allows me to do that. And I think that's really important to kind of, just put out there from the very, very get go. And also just to acknowledge, guys, look, you may be watching this and you may not have a lot of income coming in. This is a work in progress. My beginnings are I've been homeless. I worked, I was broke for the longest time. I was on benefits. Life is about progression. As you progress, this system, this method is going to really, really pay dividends for you. So now that that is out of the way, I want to jump straight into it basically, and I'm going to be using my whiteboard here a lot. So many of you would have heard about the 50, 30, 20 budgeting method. It works. It's great. Um, it's fantastic, actually, to be honest. But I think that for most people, when you think about the practical application of this budgeting system, if you live in a place like London, it is very, very hard for you to have all of your essentials really be anywhere in the region of just 50%. So what they say is, 50% on your essentials, 30% on your non-essentials, and then this pot goes into, this is your discretionary income, so you then use it for whatever it is that you want to use it for. The problem is, if you live in a place like London, for example, where actually your rent alone is like 70% of your outgoings, it would be very, very difficult for you to be able to then structure the remaining 30% against your non-essentials, and whether you have any disposable income then becomes questionable. So my system is kind of built on this, but it gives it a different perspective. And the perspective that I try to get people to work to is, forget about the numbers, because the numbers will always be fluid. What I try and get people to do is think about this from a purpose point of view. So if you silo your income and specifically your expenses into 3 sections. This is really horrible. I might have to do that again. Sorry. I'm normally do this so it's straight. There we go. Straighter than before. There we go. All right. So in the first silo, you're going to have your essentials. These will be your non-essentials. and this is the other pot. Okay. Now, this is in my book. This is built in my book. You get this visual in my book. But in the book, you also get a pre exercise that you do before you get to the stage of this budget. Because oftentimes, budgeting is about psychology. Let me just go full screen really quickly because this is a really important piece that I think is fundamental. And I had to get my head around this piece before I could really implement this strategy so that it actually worked. So the whole idea around budgeting is very much psychological. It's all about mindset. So the way I would picture budgeting before was, well, budgeting was this restrictive thing that basically meant that it controlled how I spent money. I had to, through the years of trying to examine where my money was going, once I was earning good money in Canary Wharf, started to reframe and reconsider what my perception of budgeting was. And so now I use budgeting as this method of being able to point my money into places where I want it to go. So assigning it um, intentionally to things that I want my money to go on. And again, you may not be able to do this if you're on low income right now, but as you progress and you earn more money, you'll be able to implement this to more effectiveness. So there needs to be a mindset shift around budgeting specifically. Now, in the three pots that I advocate, so everyone's going to have your essentials. So in your essentials, you're going to have your rent, you're going to have your energy bills, you're going to have, I don't know, Sky, broadband. You're going to have council tax in here. You're going to have all of the stuff that you absolutely need to survive. This is your red zone. You can't do without them. They're like your lifeblood, right? Essential expenses. Now, this is where I get a little bit more technical in my approach to this formula, which I wrote about in the book. And that is when you start looking at this pot right here. So your non-essentials. The way I see this is your non-essential pot may have things like your gym membership in there. It may have things like subscriptions, Netflix, those kind of things. It might have an Odeon subscription in there. And these are the things that you probably enjoy doing. They make you getting up, going to work 9 to 5 worthwhile on a day-to-day basis, right? You feel good about doing the things that are in here. They're not essential, they're non-essentials, but they're the things that probably give you a sense of fulfillment, a little bit of enjoyment, right? Now, when most people budget, and I encourage you to do this, list down all of your non-essentials. Now, you may have 10, you might have 15 things in there, but this is my psychology and the way I think is one of the best ways to prioritize a couple of things in your non-essential pot. And the reason for this is if you are struggling, so let's just say you're in if you're erase this, let's just say in the 50-30-20 scenario, you are paying 70% on your rent or your mortgage and your gas and your electric, right? You've only got 30% left. Well, you don't have any disposable income. You may not have any disposable income. And if you want to start making cuts because you've been squeezed, like we have been squeezed in the cost of living crisis, well, you're going to have to start cutting things from your non-essentials. And oftentimes, cutting from here can be quite painful for people. And so what I encourage people to do, and I've written about this in the book, is if you have 10 to 15 things in your non-essentials, pick 2 things in your non-essential list that are your non-negotiables. So, for example, for me, and I gave this example in the book, I love movies. I love going to the cinema. I love the Marvel Cinematic Universe. I love DC. So anytime those kind of films are out, I'm there watching them. You know, thinking about watching Fast 10 this afternoon. I like to go to the cinema at least once a week. It's my kind of way of relaxing and escaping. So when I do my budget and I list all of my non-essentials, my Odeon membership is not large, it's not expensive, it's not particularly glamorous in any way, shape, or form. That is a non-negotiable in my non-essentials list. So I prioritize those. And the psychology behind doing it in that way is because if you did find yourself in a position where you need to start cutting or making reductions to your spending, well, you're going to make reductions from here. So because you've prioritized 2 things, the other 8 or 13 things that you might want to cut from, you've already squared away in your head as not being something that is going to impact your sense of enjoyment or fulfillment too much. The key here is you're only allowed 2 things to prioritize. So that's your non-essentials pot. Now let's talk about this one, your other pot. Now, this is the most important pot of all. Okay. So, this is where you start to plan towards your goals. Okay. So, this is where, if you're looking for house deposit, that's where you're going to start putting the money into. In well, you're going to start allocating money into this pot, and then it will be put into an appropriate account to go alongside that, right? So, house deposit. If you're trying to save for an emergency fund, right, it will go into there. If you're trying to save for holiday, it will go into there. If you're trying to invest, it's going to go into there. If you're trying to start a business and you need some seed money that you're trying to save up, it's going to come from this pot right here. Now, the idea of doing it in this way is you are segmenting your finances and you're being very, very intentional around how you allocate your income to your purposes, right? Now, I picked this up and I realized this through working with very wealthy clients when I was working as a financial advisor. And for the longest time, I just thought, well, these people are wealthy. They don't budget, they don't need to. And how wrong am I? A lot of the very successful people, very wealthy people that I've worked with, they are intentional, anally so, about this stuff to the point where it was perplexing and actually quite a little bit annoying. Like, you've got a lot of money, but you're so regimented on these are my three silos. This is where my money goes. And that's how they build. And for all of the wealthy people that I've worked with, they have been so intentional around this. This is where everything, this is how they're able to build empires, how they're able to build property portfolios, how they're able to really make amazing things happen and progress their careers and grow their investment portfolios or their property portfolios. It's all from here because it's funded by money that you earn either in a business as a business owner or as an employee. So this is how a lot of them actually structure it from a personal finance point of view, and this was the biggest revelation for me working with wealthy people. Now, this is a three silo approach. Like I said, this is something that I use, and it has taken me a very, very, very long time to perfect. It's taken me a long time to be able to get it to the point where it kind of runs on its own tracks right now. And again, I can't promise you that it's going to help you save 50 grand in 2 years like it has done for me. But if you start thinking about it in the way that I've just explained here, a couple of things are going to happen. First, you're going to become really intentional around your spending. And secondly, and this is something that I've even seen with my missus, right? So she does this as well. And one thing that I've noticed is once you're really intentional in this pot here, what you'll find is you'll start to accumulate a certain amount of money into this pot specifically. And as you start to accumulate that money, and yes, it's being allocated to this purpose, but it sits in an account. So for example, you may have in your other pot, let me just go here, in your other silo, you may be saving for a house deposit, right? But actually, the money that you've allocated goes into an account. And let's just say it's in an ISA. And now let's just say you've got 10K here, or even 5K, whatever the amount might actually be. There's something weird that happens. All of a sudden, you start to become really, really anal about the amount that you're seeing accumulate. And what that does, and it's happened for my mates, it certainly happens for me, it makes you start looking at these two pots even more closely. And subconsciously, it's almost like automatically, you begin to really question what you're spending money on here and how you can be more efficient in these two areas, which only then boosts this even further. It's a really, really strange thing. It really, really is, because the intentionality that you gain from it makes you really aware of how you're spending money. And this old adage of, sometimes when you go shopping, you find things that you want to buy when you don't have money, but when you do have money, you don't want to buy anything. It is so, so true. It is so, so true. And I promise you, if you implement this, when you get to this point where you're starting to earn, accumulate a lot of cash, mindset shifts massively. And that's the whole point, right? And this is why when I wrote about it in my book, it's worked for me. It's worked wonders for me. And it's been a long road as well. Like, it's taken me a number of years, and I do explain it in the book as well, that I had to go through an exercise where I was doing pretty well in Canary Wharf, but at the end of every month, I didn't have any money left. And it took me to be really intentional around finding out why I had no money at the end of the month. And what I had to do in the end is I had to journal. So, for example, I started to notice, right, bonus days were really, really bad because I'm quite a spontaneous spender. Bonus day, I've probably gone around, see a few things that I like. I go get it on bonus day. Or if it's a Thursday night in Canary Wharf, the lads used to go out then, right? So Thursday nights were party nights. Me and my mates will go out. We'll go for steak and some wine and got a duck and waffle, whatever it is, blow 200 quid. Or if I went to Selfridges or if I went to Harrods, because I'm quite spontaneous, I'll just go spend a load of money, right? Quite automatic behaviors that in my head they're triggers, and I would just respond to the triggers. I had to document what those triggers were so I could then find out how to combat it. And little things like, for example, if I went to Selfridges, I wouldn't have my bank card with me. I write about all of this in the book. And if you've not picked up the book yet, you should definitely go pick up the book. I'll put a link in the description for you to go pick it up there. It's also an audiobook as well, so you can listen to this. But understanding those behaviors and then putting things in place to stop you from spending willy-nilly like I used to is a huge help. And it's one of the things that I've had to do in order to get this method down for me personally, where now I am able to, save £51,000 over 2 years. And that money is going to be to help me build for the future. Some of that's in ISAs, some of that is in other investment portfolios. I've got a chunk of it actually sat in just a normal account because it's my emergency fund, if you will, right? But this kind of stuff is really, really important. And on the mindset thing, let me just share this, guys. There is a lot of stuff on social media at the moment talking about just go and earn more money. And I 100% believe that you should try to prioritize higher income, because the more income you have, the more choices hopefully you'll be able to make, and better choices if you're clever. But if you don't have restraint, if you don't have the ability to think in this way, so silos, your essentials, your non-essentials, then specifically building the mindset where part of your income is assigned to future goals, house purchase, investing, saving an emergency fund, funding your business, whatever it might be, even if it is holidays. If you cannot cultivate that mindset to divide your expenses into 3 specific silos and prioritize your other, then you are on the road to nowhere. And you can earn as much as you want, but the person who earns £1,000 a month and still ends up with zero at the end of the month is the same as the person who earns 10 grand a month and still remains with zero. You're still both broke. This is a method, this is a system that will help you make the best of the earnings that you have, particularly if you're in a position where you are earning really, really well, 5, 10, 15 grand a month. If you're in that position, you should recognize that it is a very privileged position to be in. Believe me, I have to remind myself every day. Number 2, you should not take it for granted. Number 3, it can end tomorrow. And if it did end tomorrow, what are you going to have to show for it? Are you spending all of this money on, shiny trinkets, really nice lavish dinners? Yeah, the experience is very, very nice, but what are you going to have to show for it at the end? Money is a tool. Life is for living. This money that you're earning should be the tool that will help you create a life that will be more enjoyable, not wasted on expensive dinners at fucking Nobu or wherever it is that you think that you're going, or buying stupid things that really don't make any difference in the long run. Spending £1,000 on a pair of trainers was the dumbest thing I ever did. Spending £1,000 on a suit, it's one of the dumbest things that I ever did. I used to do that quite regularly when I was working in Canary Wharf, because that was my idea of what success looks like. A lot of this stuff is around mindset and perspectives, how you perceive the world. Some of it is, if we go back to the psychology, the fact that when you grow up, your financial habits are locked in at age 7. In the book, I talk about how, from a very, very young age, I didn't realize it until in my adult years, I had a scarcity mindset, because the dinners in my mate's house next door, Glenn, it smelled like freaking Gordon Ramsay was in there. And when he's eating lamb chops and having steaks and all this nice stuff for dinner, I go back to my home and we're having, beans on toast for dinner. There is a realization at age 5 and 6 years old. Actually, we don't have money because he can afford to have really nice dinners and we can't. And that started off a scarcity mindset. And that translated to when I worked in Canary Wharf, where I was earning really good money, thinking I'm earning all this money right now. It might not last. So I'm going to go spend it and enjoy it. A lot of it is mindset. And this is just one of the systems that I'm using at the moment to ensure that at the top of my funnel, so my income, I'm as efficient as possible to make sure that I'm retaining as much of the income that I can earn. Yes, putting that money aside, but using it to build a future as well. And that's really what I want to leave everybody with for this live session. Again, I tried to do this yesterday. I know that the video is a little bit pixelated still, but the video was even worse last night. And I hope, and I wanted people to get the benefit of what I'm talking about here. You can read a little bit more about this philosophy and actually do the pre-work. So through my book, by the way, which you can grab here, again, it's an audio book. If you want to see the visuals of the exercises that I set, particularly exercise 1, you need to get the physical book. You can grab it on Amazon here. But the exercises are really, really important, because what we're asking you to do here is we're asking you to combat habits. And these will be habits that you'll have triggers, you automatically do it, you don't really think about it. In order for you to change that sustainably, you have to have a reason why. So exercise 1, task 1, exercise 1 in the book is integral to giving you the why behind changing your habits. And once you anchor into that why, maybe some of the tough decisions that you're going to have to make when you look at implementing this budgeting method, you're going to need that why to help you make it sustainable. I'm just looking at the comments right here. Let me just get to these very quickly. Daniel, good afternoon, mate. How are you? Thank you very, very much for joining. I appreciate you. Let me just cycle through a couple of these as well. Daniel said, looking forward to this one. Thank you. Alex, glad I found this channel. Thank you, mate. Thanks for joining. I know this is in the afternoon on a Friday, so I wasn't too sure how many people would actually join this, but hopefully people will watch this on replay. And if you do, by the way, and you have gained value from this, please make sure that you smash the like button. And if you're with me here on live as well, make sure you smash the like button. Just signals to the YouTube algorithm that you've actually enjoyed it. And it means that it gets pushed to people who may actually benefit from this as well. Reese is saying hello. Reese, welcome, mate. Someone's saying here, I missed a bit of the show last night. I'm here for the full platter. Yes, mate. Hopefully you find it useful. Daniel, good afternoon. How you doing? Alex, I'm liking the strategy. Like I said, it's not going to be something that you're going to be able to implement, boom, just like that. It's taken me years to perfect it, but believe me, it's made a world of difference to me. And, now that I'm self-employed and I'm a little bit more in control of my own earnings and my own destiny, it's about maximizing this stuff. Because like I said, I may not want to be in this position for forever. I may want to, step back, and being able to make the most of the money that I earn right now to give me that foundation to build for the future is really, really important. Someone's just saying here, budgeting isn't restricting yourself. It's intentionally spending. Exactly that, mate. Exactly that. But for the longest time, I had that mentality that budgeting is just this way that will restrict me. And I think one of the lines that I put in the book was, it was a constant reminder of how badly I was doing and my place in the social economic ladder, right? Because I was in debt at the time. I was really, really struggling. I'd literally just come out of a hostel after being homeless, and just like the thought of budgeting money. I was homeless because I couldn't budget money, like literally. I got a job, didn't understand how budgeting was. When rent was due, I didn't have the rent, so they kicked me out. That's got me to being homeless. And so thinking of budgeting for me just had all of these negative connotations around it. And I think we have to free ourselves of that, because if we're able to see it for what it is, we can receive it a little bit better. We're a bit more optimistic about how we actually implement it. And then the rest kind of is a little bit easier. It's not easy, but it's easier. Daniel's just saying here, for reference, let's have a look at this. For reference, I had subscriptions exceeding £100 a month. Xbox Game Pass 7.99, Spotify 10.99, gym memberships £50, Experian 14.99, iCloud storage £2.49, and Netflix. It all really quickly adds up. Exactly that. And so this is what I'm saying, right? So let me just come back to this shared screen, right? So let me just get rid of this comment very quickly. If we go back here, so those are all non-essentials. Now, if you ever find yourself in a position where you have to start cutting because cost of living, you need to get some more money from somewhere, you would cut from here. But in that list of subscriptions, you may say, right, my gym, I don't want to give up. And maybe I don't want to give up something else that you put on here. So let's just say you didn't want to give up your Xbox pass, right? You would prioritize those two, and because in your mind you've prioritized that these are the two most important things for me, because maybe the gym makes you feel better, it's working on yourselves, it's taking care of your health, right? Those are your priorities. If you then had to cut Experian or your cloud storage or your Netflix, you'd be like, it doesn't really matter, because the two things that mean the most to you are the ones that you prioritized. And I think that's a very subtle way of looking at things differently that can have a really big impact in the long run, and it helps you embed this method in a way that is sustainable and works best for you as well. Aradini saying here, what a masterclass. Thank you very much, my friend. Right, okay, let's have a look and see what else we got here. I like this as well, mate. Listen, my man's got all the gems today, mate. You should jump on the live with me, mate. This is brilliant. Investing yourself, treat yourself, investing yourself, 100%. What else is he saying here? If anyone needs to see a clearer view of what's coming in and going out, there's apps like Snoop, which are fantastic. There's also Money Dashboard as well, which is great. You can connect all of your accounts, and yeah, it's great. It gives you a visual thing as well to go in. So you can use this method alongside a traditional budgeting app or a spending analyzer. But the idea is this methodology of three distinct silos, and the important one of all is other. Everybody has essentials and non-essentials, but not a lot of people have this other part, which is where you're going to start building out from, where you're going to start giving yourself the ability to work towards specific goals that mean something to you. Let's just have a look at this one, actually. Let me just make this a little bit bigger because I can barely see that. Respect to the life story. Sometimes glad I never got a job in this city. Alcohol pressure, and thanks for sharing all the knowledge. No, thank you, mate. Look, I'm very thankful for my journey. I mean, I can definitely look back on it now and be like, hey, it's cool. It's turned out okay. But obviously, whilst you're homeless and whilst you're in hostels and all that kind of stuff, it's not fun. But hey, your journey makes you who you are, and it's definitely made me who I am, and it drives what I do now. So thanks for that, mate. So when Daniel said, I'll shoot over an email to you here. Yes, please do. All right, guys. So this is I want it to be a very quick one. I know it's 28 minutes already, but hopefully you've gained some benefit from this. Two asks from me. First and foremost, if you have enjoyed it, please smash the like button. If you haven't subscribed already, please make sure you subscribe. I plan to do more of these in this kind of format moving forward, just to have conversations. And that's the whole point, right? To have a conversation about this stuff in a non-threatening way and introduce a few things that it definitely changed my finances, changed my life, helped me be more financially secure, and share some of that wisdom with you. Second, if you haven't got the book already, it is an audiobook. It's also available on Kindle. The book is jam-packed with a lot of stuff. So all I've explained here is the budgeting system at the top of my basic formula. So the book is called The Money Basics. And the reason why it's called The Money Basics is because it follows my basic formula. Now, basic is an acronym. B is budgeting. A is avoiding debt. In that chapter, I actually go through my experience of struggling with debt for 15 years and some of the things that helped me get through it. And I also give a case study of how you can actually tackle some of your debts and some of the options that you might actually have should you be in a position where you're struggling with credit cards and overdrafts and all this kind of stuff, right? So there's a case study in there. The S is all about saving early. One of the biggest lessons that I wish someone had taught me when I was in my 20s: you get your first job, Pete, save a percentage of your income, right? So allocate a percentage of your income to that other part that we go through in the basic part of, in the budgeting part of the formula. And the reason why that is so important is because at the end of the day, for me at least, if I had the ability to be able to perhaps save 10% or even 5% of what I of my first paycheck, and I cultivated that habit all the way through my working career. I think my first job I was earning something like, I don't know, £800 a month, but that's still 80 quid. Now, when I get to the point where I'm earning 5 grand a month, that 80 quid is now £500. And so the impact of that, cultivating that saving early habit, is huge when you look at it from, if you started this when you were 18. Like, it's huge. It's absolutely massive. But I also talk about the fact that, saving early alone isn't enough. And that leads us into the I in the formula, which is all about investing early. So the way I position the savings part is, you cultivate the habit. That's really, really important. The habit becomes second nature. So there's always a pot of money that's going into something. And yes, you need an emergency fund. So once you have all of that locked down, and maybe you've worked towards some of your life goals, you can then move on to the investing part, which is where you start to leverage things like compound interest and all the stuff that we talk about so much on the channel. Then the C is all about your credit score. Because at the end of the day, if you're struggling with debt, your credit score is going to take a hit. If you want to buy a home, your credit score is going to take a hit. You might get into a really good job like I did and get a car allowance. You want to get a decent car, your credit score is going to impact the kind of car that you can get, if you can get one. And credit is really important. Your credit score is really important, because the better your credit score is, the better rates you're going to have access to, because you become less of a risk to the lenders. And so that's the basic formula. And it's designed to help you become your own financial hero, which is the ability to make choices out of, financial life decisions and financial decisions out of choice and not necessity. So there's the code that you can pick up. It's on Amazon right now. It is an audio book. It's on Kindle. It's also a physical book as well. But I appreciate you for watching this, and thank you so much. Guys, enjoy the rest of your Friday afternoon. Cheers.